This is your daily briefing and you're most welcome to it. Got some European Super League stuff to go through with you. A bit on that side of things, a bit on Poch, and some very interesting gossip on Harry Kane. So in no particular order. Interesting article I found in on an Italian website this morning. Did a piece on it on boyhotspur.com, and the European Super League is not dead. In fact, it's very much, I wouldn't say alive and well, but paused is probably the most accurate description. And the deal is that the whole thing is financed by JP Morgan, and they've put up a ton of money. I mean, like thousands of millions is what's been described in this particular article. And essentially the way things are set at the moment is that UEFA, in the European, let's get this right, the Court of Justice of the European Union, that UEFA have to prove the case that this can't happen, that it somehow infringes upon law, and that's going to take a while to happen. But ultimately, this all that's happened so far is that a number of the clubs, and not all of them, and that's another clue, have published, I would say apologies, but the word sorry was absent from most of them, and I think it's sort of regret, discomfort caused, or whatever is the sort of language that was used. But what this brings us on to, because that's not going to happen in the next fortnight, but what this brings us on to was what I deemed to be a quite hysterical response to the European Super League. And just to get it out in the open, so, you know, there's nobody going to respond to this and go, oh, you're a nasty piece of work, what about Accrington Stanley and all the rest of it. I've made my position on this really clear, which is straightforwardly since 1992, but I'd hesitate to say that the sport was clean and wholesome before then, that since 92 and the Sky money came in, it's all been about money to varying degrees, and it's all been about exclusion and about I'm all right, Jack, pull the ladder up. So for me, the European Super League was simply an extension, a natural addition to the way that the game had been heading for decades. And once you embrace the fact that football is fundamentally immoral and unethical, then really that kind of diffuses the hysteria, the hysterics that greeted the announcement. And we got an awful lot of po-faced huff and puff from, you know, the likes of Gary Neville and all these other characters who going on about the football pyramid. And like I've said before on here, I'd never heard the phrase the football pyramid before. I'd heard the phrase Ponzi scheme, but certainly not pyramid. And how they had the gall, you know, the absolute sort of stunned and surprised, the audacity. Well, it just doesn't surprise me. And we've been through this before. Like I say, I mean, I find the whole thing, the tokenism and the sort of glib patting on the head of the smaller clubs. And, you know, like we had this business with Marine FC grabbing every single penny they could in the cup. I mean, they shouldn't be having to lower themselves in order to essentially sustain themselves, to exist. And they're forced to. But, you know, you get the BBC will go to whatever it is, you know, Kickerball Rovers and whatever, and they'll meet Jack and they'll meet Dolly and the tea lady and all the rest of it. And then the atmosphere is taut because they're desperately hoping that nobody's going to swear because there are grown men with pints in their hands at sort of 10 o'clock in the morning. But I don't think there's any sincerity within the sport itself. And I have to say that I think that the freakish reaction to this was from those who felt that they were going to be left behind when the ladder got pulled up. And if anybody wanted to make meaningful change and to genuinely help grassroots football and lower league sides, then, you know, be my guest. But I don't see it. I've been doing this for 15 years and I don't see it. You know, and if you need a clue, right, if words aren't enough, that the game was all about money and, you know, it wasn't about the little Johnny on Hackney Marshes, Daniel Levy demolished White Hart Lane to make more money. So, you know, it is what it is, but it ain't gone, and that's going to come back. And just on that, the business of the fans that we saw on TV and on online, whose name were they operating in behalf of? Because it wasn't my bloody name. Thugs, people taking drugs, drunk people, you know, hooligans, half-wits. There were people outside Tottenham Hotspur Stadium singing that they were going to have a party when Daniel Levy's dead. I mean, come on, just get a grip. They don't represent me, and I'm sure they don't represent the bulk of you. The thugs that broke into Old Trafford, sniffing off of a white substance off of a corner flag, letting off flares, chucking things at policemen and horses and things. I think they've just been banged up under house arrest for too long. That's what I think. But they don't represent me. And supporters' trusts, dear God, I mean, don't get me started. But they're all about, you know, this governance and power grabs and all the rest of it. They represent, and many of them I appreciate have, you know, tens of thousands of duped fools that have given them a tenner. But if you look at that proportionately across the planet, there are a very small gaggle of supporters. So they don't have any great pull. They don't represent many of us, let's put it like that. Next item is, I just wanted to revisit very briefly, because I think it was something that people didn't get. There's nothing in the press today about Pochettino. I think that may have almost certainly blown itself out. But I just wanted to touch on the business of why didn't he deny it. And if we look at things as they stand now after the event, the lack of denial benefited absolutely everybody. PSG come out of it looking resolute. Pochettino looks like he's in demand. And Spurs, and this will take a little bit of sugar to help this particular medicine go down, but Spurs, for a nanosecond, or however long you viewed it, did look determined to think of the fans in their next appointment. Personally, I think it was all cobblers, but so that just proves my theory, I hope, or substantiates my theory, that the business with Poch saying nothing and the thing all being done behind sort of smoke and mirrors wasn't actually the worst piece of advice that he's taken. The business with Harry Kane's transfer is something like the European Super League, is something that hasn't gone away as well. And I get occasional bits of ITK. And I'll be honest with you, most of the stuff isn't actually kind of fit for publishing, because it's more of it's information which helps you frame your opinions and your views on things. So it's very rarely, very, very rarely, I got heads up on when AVB was going to be signed, for example, but it's very rarely that, like, on Thursday we will sign so-and-so. It really tends not to work like that. Because it's real. But what I've had confirmed by two sources now, which is very interesting, I think, is Harry Kane doesn't have an agent as such. It's the popular belief is that it's his brother Charlie, and I've since been advised that it's the old man, it's Patrick, that is between the pair of them, shall we say, the direction of travel comes from. And this is short and sweet, but I absolutely don't doubt it to be true. The father, Harry Kane Senior, or whatever he's called, Harry Kane's father, is being ghosted by Daniel Levy. He's not answering his calls. I can see this ending in tears. I really can. The net, or whatever you want to call it, is closing in on Levy. The stadium sponsor thing's still over our heads. Highest ticket prices in Europe. And if you want to get a sense of the guy and a sense of the operation, because as I've said to you before, the culture of a business, the face of a business, and the personality of a business doesn't come from the boys in the loading bay. It comes from the top, and it comes from the board. And if you want to get yet another taste of the guy, look at the Villa game. And I'm not going to say, ooh, 60 quid ticket price. He charges what he wants, a private company. If it's too much, don't go. But the fact that some clubs let people in for nothing, which I think is a nice thing to do. Some people didn't charge very much, which is a nice thing to do. But Daniel Levy, they left all those, on the lower tiers. They left all the sponsorship, the tarpaulins, with the logos on. So they prioritised the sponsors and the fans. There were smattering in tier 2, but the people in the bleachers. And that just tells you so much, I think. So, European Super League, that has not gone away. And that's going to come back. The Poch denial paid off. And Harry Kane would like Daniel to pick his phone up. Right, that's all I have for you today. Thank you very much for all your subscriptions, and the numbers just keep on going up. Comments are getting nice and lively. I can't tell you enough. I didn't expect this, so thank you. Keep it Tottenham.